So it's our first Friday quiz, and usually when you come in, it's going to be during the first 10 minutes of class. And so today, because I am out of the office, we are going to have a virtual quiz, which means you're going to end up with a perfect score. It's going to be great. But I want you to try the problems on your own before I work through them to see if you would know how to do this if this was an actual normal quiz situation. So question number 1 says, find the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points, -2, 1, and 2, 3. I'd like you to try this first, maybe on a separate sheet of paper, to see if you would know how to do it. And then, if not, go ahead and follow through my steps to make sure that you know the correct way to go through this procedure. So the first thing that I would do is label my 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. If I need to be able to find the equation of the line that passes through the points, I do need the slope between those 2 points. And we have an equation that says that the slope is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So let's plug in what we've got. Y sub 2 is 3 minus y sub 1 is 1. And then x sub 2 is 2 minus -2 for x sub 1. So in the numerator we have 2. Down in the denominator, 2 minus a -2 is +4. So the slope is +1/2. And now if I want to plug that back into the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, I just found the m, and I can choose one of these 2 points, whichever one I want to plug in. I'm going to plug in this one right here because it doesn't have any negative signs in it. So I'm going to use the 3 to be equal to my y value. I'm going to put the 1/2 in for m, and for the x I'm going to plug in the 2. And that's going to let me solve for b. So what this is telling me is I have 3 is equal to 2 times 1/2 is just 1 plus b. Subtract the 1 from both sides. And you get that your y-intercept is equal to 2. So the equation of this line would be y equals, plug in the slope, 1/2 x plus our y-intercept, which is 2. So y equals 1/2 x plus 2 would be your final answer. Let's look at question number 2. It says, graph this parabola y equals x squared minus 2x minus 3 on the xy plane below. Be sure to be as accurate as possible and clearly label any important points, such as the x-intercepts, y-intercepts, the vertex, etc. So for a parabola, it's super important that we find the vertex. And so we've talked about how we can do that with finding the x-coordinate is -b over 2a. For this parabola, b is already a negative number, so we're going to put +2 over 2 times 1. +2 over 2 is just 1, so the x-coordinate of our vertex is 1. So I know that I have this point, and 1 is the first thing. I need to figure out what the y-coordinate is by plugging it back in. So y is equal to 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. That's going to give us 1 minus 2 minus 3 more. So -1 minus 3 more is -4. Our vertex is at 1, -4. So I can go ahead and put that down on my coordinate plane right now. 1, -4 would be right here. I also need to find the x-intercepts, and the way we find x-intercepts is to plug in 0 for y. So I'm solving 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 3. You can factor that as x minus 3 times x plus 1, because two numbers that would multiply to give you -3 would be -3 and +1, and they'd also add up to the -2 that we need from the middle. -3 plus 1 is -2. So our x-intercepts are going to be x equals +3 and x equals -1. So these go down on my x-axis. I can go ahead and put those down. +3 would be here on my x-axis, and -1 would be here on my x-axis. And then the y-intercept is what you get when you plug in 0 for x. So for the y-intercept, y should be equal to 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3, which is going to give you y is equal to -3. And I can go ahead and put that down on my graph. And now we're ready to sketch in my parabola. So I know it's going to look something like this. And I have all of my important points. Finally, our last question says, write down the equation that represents the following circle. And so we wrote our circle equation before was x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared is equal to the radius squared. So let's look at what they gave us. The h and k are supposed to be the center of the circle. So they gave us the center of our circle is -3, so that's our h value, and -4, that's our k value. And the radius of this circle is 2. So into that formula, I can write x minus, my h value is a -3. That's going to get squared. Plus y minus, and my k value is also a negative number, and that's going to get squared, equals the radius, which is 2, and that should get squared. So to clean that up a little bit, you would write x plus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 4 quantity squared equals, and then 2 squared would be 4. And this is the equation for the circle. And we're all done.